Okay, BAN-KAST Episode 8. Let's do this, covering Bleach, the 1,000-Year Blood War arc, also Episode 8. There's probably a better way for me to announce that, because, BAN-KAST Episode 8 is obviously covering Bleach Episode 8. I don't think there's ever going to be an episode where I only cover half of that episode of the Bleach anime, and then I cover the other half later. The numbers mean Episode 8 of BAN-KAST is Episode 8 of Bleach, okay? It's a good system. Why am I trying to mess up the system? Why am I even still talking about this? Okay, so things are definitely going to start moving at a much faster pace from this moment onward, especially if you've been a fan of Bleach from the beginning and you've watched like the first series anime where there was a lot of filler. This pacing might actually throw you off. Too Spooky just put out a video yesterday. I watched it, and go watch it as well. It's really good. And I also need to ask Too Spooky to be on BAN-KAST at some point because he's a huge Bleach fan as well. But he made just this brief video talking about the 1,000-Year Blood War arc and his impressions of it. And the one thing that he said in the video that really stuck to me was how the pacing here is actually fast. I think we went through something like 35 chapters within the first 7 episodes of the Bleach anime, and that's insane, because if you go back and watch a lot of the fights from, back in the day in the first series, they would add a lot of filler to it. Like in the fight with Ichigo and Grimmjow, you have to add a few extra scenes with Grimmjow, like tossing Ichigo around before they actually get back to the canon material. And the reason for that is, the Bleach chapters on average are a little bit shorter in terms of dialogue and the amount of panels compared to an average chapter of One Piece. That was something I found out about the hard way. Back in the day when I would review Bleach, I could get through a whole chapter of Bleach, if I was just covering the material in the chapter, probably in 15, 20 minutes. And that's why I started adding all those extra skits and the different techings and stuff like that. I'm rad teching, I'm smart teching, because I'm wow, I have so much extra time to play with. So I would come out with these reviews that are 45, 50 minutes long, but if you actually cut out all of my skits and everything, the actual chapter is probably only 15 minutes. The reason I don't do that with One Piece is because when I started reviewing One Piece, Oda does a lot more dialogue. There's a lot more panels. There's a lot more stuff in the background to discuss. Not to say Kubo doesn't do that as well. It's just there's more of it in One Piece. So if I added the same... I get this question a lot. How come you don't do the skits with your One Piece reviews as you do with your regular stuff? It's because I'd rather stay on topic with One Piece because there's so much information in every single chapter to dissect. And even then, I don't get everything. But if I included every single detail of the chapter, plus all the skits and sketches and hey everybody, I'm rad teching, here's an adventure, for 15 minutes of a side tangent, oh my god, every One Piece chapter review would be 2.5 hours. Maybe you don't have a problem with that, but I have to edit these, and so you know what I mean. So that's the reason those dialed back. But anyway, that was more of just a look back into my own channel. But now we're moving on to episode 8. We are starting off at night, and it's at the beginning of chapter 515. This episode's going to cover 515 to 519, so that is 5 chapters of material. Some stuff is cut out, and there's actually a scene that is cut out of this episode that was in the manga that I'm really upset by. Probably the biggest scene so far in the anime I wish they would have included, and they didn't, but we'll get to that when we get to that. So this is the immediate aftermath of the Vandenrijk's invasion into the Seirete. Most of the buildings are destroyed. A tremendous amount of Shinigami are dead after this event. And it's really cool that they're doing it here at night with the lanterns and everything, because obviously this doesn't get conveyed in the manga as well. But we have all of the Shinigami of the 4th Division now scouring the Seirete, trying to find as many survivors as they can. This guy right here is the 3rd seat of the 4th Division. Imura Yasuchika Imura, yeah. He used to be just the 1/3 seat, I think, because Hanataro Yamada was also promoted a 3rd seat. I think they both basically have 3rd seat position right now. Anyway, he's the head of the 1st relief squad, okay? So he's out there, trying to find survivors, anybody that they could, attempt to heal. They are just leaving the corpses behind. They even say that, listen, if you find a dead body, just leave it. We don't have time. We don't have time, or the beds, or, we'll deal with it later, okay? And, the whole vibe of this, even when we cut back to the 4th Division here, which I'm just actually realizing the lanterns and the bottom right of the screen, those lanterns actually have the flower of the 4th Division on them. So that's pretty cool. That's a nice little touch. But, there's no electricity in the Seirete. They kind of do have electricity. They do have, technology to an extent. but I think it's just like a direct tonal choice to not have bright lights in the 4th Division right now. It almost reminds me of like a Civil War era hospital. You know, like there's a bunch of like wounded like Civil War, you know, soldiers. They're like, you know, they have to get their legs amputated and crap, and there's just like lanterns and they're dragging them in, and he's like, oh my god, my leg, my leg. You know, it's that kind of really sad, dark kind of like, you know, we got our asses kicked in this battle really bad. A lot of us are dead, and now all we can do is try to pick up the pieces and try to heal the wounded. So we have Isane here, who is the lieutenant of the 4th Division, as well as Retsu Unohana, the captain. A little strange why they're not really doing anything, helping out the wounded. They're just kind of hanging up here in the office, but whatever. There's this little emotional moment between them. So Isane is, as you can look at her eyes there, she has some bags under her eyes. She hasn't slept in a while, and she's looking at all of the wounded. And she's like, you know, Captain Unohana, was it really the right choice for us to remain in the Squad 4 barracks the entire time the Vandenreich was invading? Now, there was a practical reason for this. They weren't staying in there just because they felt like not fighting. They were literally given this order by Yamamoto. Yamamoto literally told them, hold on, right here, do not leave the Squad 4 barracks no matter what. That was the last and final order given by the head captain. So Isane, which is a little, by the way, a little strange, because like a couple episodes ago, we just had the scene with Isane complaining about her dry skin, where, you know, Yamamoto goes into his Bankai, and there's over like 1,000 dead within the invasion, like first 7 minutes. So you can't say that Isane didn't know about that, but she's like in the Squad 4 barracks, and she's just like, Captain, my skin is dry. And it's like, oh, Isane, you're acting so girly right now. And then cut to this. It's just like, should we have not have stayed in the 4th Division? There's so many dead people. I'm like, yeah, well, it's just an interesting little, I don't know, emotional shift from the last time we saw Isane. Anyway, yeah, Unohana is basically like, you know, don't let your feelings dictate what you say. It was obviously the right decision to stay there. And you know what? I agree, because it's actually really fortunate that the Vandenreich did not attack the 4th Division barracks. I wonder if that was intentional, because the rest of the Seirete has been effectively leveled. They attacked like every other division. They attacked the 3rd Division, the 6th Division, the 8th Division, the 10th Division, like outside their barracks. That's where most of the captains fought, the Sternritter. So why did they not attack the 4th Division? And I think maybe, I don't know, it almost makes me think, like, did Yuha, like, intend to finish off the Seirete in this first invasion? Or did he plan on, like, no, we're just gonna sort of put the fear of God into them in this invasion. We're gonna bloody their nose a little bit. And then the second invasion, that's when we get real. You know, that's when we truly level this place, you know? But yeah, so maybe Yuha was like, leave the 4th Division alone, because the ones that don't survive, we want to give them like a false sense of hope that they can maybe heal and get stronger, and then they can fight us, and then bam, second invasion, you know? Maybe, I mean, Yuha, he really hates the Shinigami, so that might actually have been the game plan. I don't know. But it was a good choice for them to stay there, because now they can actually heal the wounded, as opposed to, like, imagine if most of Squad 4 was wiped out by the Vandenreich, they'd be pretty much screwed right now. Obviously, like, Unohana would have been able to survive. She's really powerful, as we're going to see. And Isane, I think, would have been okay. But, like, a lot of the other, like, you know, most of the division members of Squad 4, they're just relief unit specialists. They're first aid. They're not, like, they have Sanpakto, but they're not trained to really fight that way. So they would have just gotten annihilated. So it was a good idea for them to stay there. Okay. So now we cut over to Shunsui, who went to go see the area where Yuha fought against Yama, I guess trying to find, like, you know, some trace of his former master, of, you know, head captain Yamamoto, anything, like a disembodied arm, a fragment of his beard, you know, something. But no, he finds nothing but the abyss. And the abyss stares back with a title card! Bleach #8, The Shooting Star Project, Zero Mix. Oh, I get it, because of the Zero Squad. That makes sense now. So, yeah, I guess Shunsui wanted to go pay some respects to the old man, but, yeah, they really couldn't find much of him. They do find the remnants of Ryujin Jaka, like the burned-out ashes of that, but aside from that, they don't find anything involving Yamamoto. So we get the titles, and then we have this scene. So Ichigo is in the 4th Squad barracks. I love the lighting in the beginning of this episode. It's just so somber. That's a good word, somber. So one of the fourth squad members goes up to him and delivers basically a letter saying that, like, okay, Kisuke Uehara managed to send us a message. He's okay. Chad is okay, Orihime's okay, everybody's okay in Hueco Mundo. Because remember, the last time that Ichigo heard anything from Kisuke was on the phone, and then the phone signal just cuts out when Killhei got back up and attacked him. So it's really good that he's, like, sending, like, some primitive message. I guess they couldn't communicate with him in, like, audio or visual. So, I don't know, maybe Uehara was using, like, the telegraph or something like that. Like, beep, 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 you know, Kisuke Uehara's okay. So that gives Ichigo some relief. Like, he doesn't have to immediately, like, rush back over to Hueco Mundo. You know, like, they're fighting in Hueco Mundo, and then Ichigo, the Soul Society's in danger. Okay, I gotta go save them. And then they get a message like, Ichigo, Orihime's about to die. Okay, I've gotta head back to Hueco Mundo now. You know, it's just like, no. So it's a good thing that he can, like, stay in the Seirete for right this moment. There's Ikaku right there. He's all bandaged up. He's like, you know, let go of me, you idiots. There's no way Captain Zaraki would have lost, you know, because Zaraki got manhandled by Yuha, so he's not taking that news all too well. Here's Yamamoto. Here's Yamamoto. The spirit of Yamamoto lives on in third seat of the 4th Division, Hanataro Yamada. He lives on in all of us, ladies and gentlemen. So, yes, this is Hanataro Yamada. Had a pretty major role. I don't know. Yeah, you know what he did? He was a main character during the Soul Society arc. He was in the opening titles. He helped rescue Rukia. You know, he was there. He was more of a supporting role in every other subsequent arc. I kind of love it when in the Bount arc they bring him back and try to make him a main character in the Bount arc as well. But every time he showed up after that, he has been pretty much in just a supporting role, and that's good because he's the member of the 4th Division. They're literally the support division. So he showed up at Hueco Mundo to fight against Zomori alongside alongside Byakuya. It didn't work too well though because he just got controlled by Zomori, but still he was there, he helped. But yeah, he's here now. He's the 3rd seed. He used to be the 7th seed, so he's gotten a pretty big promotion. And it's also after the end of the Fake Karakura Town arc with the fight with Aizen, when he came back, he was actually greeted quite well by the 11th Division. He was actually afraid of the 11th Division about to, like, attack him or yell at him, but the 11th Division was actually very respectful to him. And he's like, you know, 7th seat, Hanataro Yamada, you charge directly into enemy lines to support. You know, you are truly a great man. And so that's probably where Hanataro got his promotion. You know what I mean? So all he really did was, like, heal some people and get stabbed by Zomori, but still, I mean, like, it was a good move there. Anyway, he shouts over to Ichigo, like, hey, Ichigo, you need healing. You know, you're battle damaged as well. Ichigo's like, no, I'm fine. Like, seriously, I'm good. There's a dude over there missing half of his body. Fix that guy. You know, Izuru literally got his stomach and chest and lung ripped out. You know, Byakuya is in critical care. Don't worry about me. I'm fine. I just got some scrapes and bruises, okay? Also, with the Blute vein, I mean, I guess he doesn't really have to worry about, like, that, you know, massive throat wound from when Yuha stabbed him. He was able to block that for the most part. So, yeah, first aid is pretty much good enough for Ichigo to heal up there. Shinji shows up and he's like, yeah, hey, Rukia and Abara got out of surgery. I want to have a moment right here because this is a joke I remember doing way back in the day. It's crazy how, like, I remember, like, the kind of edits and skits I did, like, over 10 years ago, because that's when these chapters came out, like, back in 2012. But I remember the first translation of this, and I think this was back in, like, the manga stream days or something. You know, I think it was manga stream. But anyway, I remember the first translation of this had it written where Shinji says to Ichigo, he doesn't just announce that Rukia and Renji are out of surgery. He says that, like, he finished the surgery. Like, he was the one that operated on Rukia and Renji, kind of implying that Shinji has, like, you know, surgery skills or, like, doctor skills or whatever. That's not actually canon. That was just a mistranslation. But because of that, I remember doing a little joke where I took the House theme, House MD with Hugh Laurie, which was one of my favorite shows back then, and still like it now, but it's been off the air for a while. It's been off the air for actually 10 years. And I used, like, the you know, the opening of House, like, do-do-do-do, but I replaced House with Shinji. It's just one of those stupid little jokes I just remember back in the day, but I really enjoyed it. So anyway, yeah. So yeah, Rukia and Renji are alive. They're out of critical condition. They're going to be fine. Renji's still unconscious right now. He's kind of hooked up to a ventilator. That's another thing, too. We actually get to see the level of technology here. Like, they just have a straight-up, like, heart monitor. Like, in the manga, they don't show this. In the manga, they have technology, but it's more of, like, picture like World War II, like era computers, era technology, that kind of stuff. This is like very clearly like flat screen monitors, modern LED kind of stuff, heart monitors and things, and they have that kind of level of technology here. But anyway, this is actually a really nice scene because you have a moment where Ichigo and Rukia have like a back and forth like they always do, where Rukia's like, Ichigo, you came to save us, and Ichigo's like, well, of course I did. Why wouldn't I, you idiot? Just like, so they have their like little cutesy back and forth, and I will ship Ichigo and Rukia until my dying breath. So I'll take whatever I can get. These little cute little scenes between them right here where Rukia's in bed with a massive concussion. You have to understand, she literally just got punched by She-Hulk because we found out she fought against Meninas McAllen. She's Sternritter P, the power. Her ability is basically just She-Hulk. She increases her muscles and just boom, muscle waifu, and then bam, punched Rukia straight in the face. So I gotta say, number one, Meninas is awesome, but Rukia took a hit. All right, she could take a punch. All right, so yeah, she's gonna be okay too. I mean, she doesn't have any serious injuries. I mean, her eye, it's not like her eye got knocked out or something. She'll be fine. She'll be okay. So anyway, we now have a scene here where Ichigo feels a little bad because he's like, I didn't really do anything. He feels like I didn't do much. I just showed up, got my Zanpakuto broken, and then that was it. Shinji tells him, like, hey, man, you managed to drive away the enemy boss, which, it's kind of true and isn't. Ichigo definitely took Yuha's time up, like the last few minutes that he had left to stay in the Seirete. If Ichigo didn't show up at that exact moment, Yuha, actually, I think it was kind of stated Yuha was leaving anyway. So I don't know if Ichigo really drove the boss away, but yeah, he could take that accolade. Why not? I mean, like, he has to give Ichigo something. Also, a member of the 12th Division shows up at this point and says, Captain Kuratsuchi needs to see you about your Zanpakuto. So Ichigo leaves with that guy over to the 12th Division, and Shinji and Rukia are just kind of watching him from the window as the rain falls. And he's just like, man, that guy's always so busy. Now, Rukia knows Ichigo pretty well at this point. I mean, they've been together for a while. Not in that way, although we could hope. But no, anyway, she mentions that Ichigo had a very pained look on his face. Like, more so than just, like, I lost a fight and my Zanpakuto broke. Obviously, that's cause for alarm and sadness. But Rukia knows when Ichigo is upset over, like, the loss of a battle and when there's something else weighing on his mind. And Shinji just kind of mentions, like, oh, yeah, he just lost a fight, all the Seirete got wiped out. Rukia knows him better, okay? And he's like, no, do you really think that's it, Captain Hiriko? I think there's something else going on here. And if Rukia was able to move under her own power right now, I'm sure she'd go after Ichigo and try to figure out what's going on and try to help him any way that she could. But she needs to rest right now. So get some sleep, Rukia. Don't worry. You're going to have some moments later on in this story. Oh, yes. Rukia is not really in the first half of this arc all that much, which is unfortunate because she's like my favorite character. But she'll get some moments later. Don't worry. So anyway, now we cut over to the 1st Division barracks. This is usually where the captain meetings take place. And you see right there on the table, the only remnant of head captain Yamamoto is Ryujin Jaka. At this moment, we have a member of the Stealth Corps show up, the 5th Division of the Stealth Corps, which is like in charge of like relaying the messages. Anytime you see a dude with a long hat like this or the helmet, he's basically there just to deliver messages. Squad 6 Captain Byakuya Kuchiki, as well as Squad 11 Captain Kenpachi Zaraki, have survived. So he mentions that, so we're not changing anything. Byakuya is going to survive, as I assumed he would. They're not going to do something on that level of changing stuff. Although Kubo did bring up in an interview, I forgot I could pull this up. I'm a fan of I follow a Bleach fan group on Facebook, and they posted like the interview about it, so you maybe go check it out there. It's Bleach Shikai posting on Facebook. Check it out. Some cool stuff on there. Anyway, they mentioned this interview where Kubo was talking about the stuff that was cut out of the arc, and it was mainly like the comedy elements, like Shino's ringtone, stuff like that. We even get some stuff with Cone that's cut out of this episode, and that was intentional. That was not like the anime just doing that. It was basically Kubo saying, hey, listen, I don't want to mess up the tone of a lot of these scenes, so can we keep, in favor of keeping the somber, very dramatic, very serious tone of this arc, like this is a enemy unlike any other we've faced up until now. We need to keep the theme with this going. So if there's like a little comedy moment in the middle of all this tension, you can remove that. So we're going to be getting to that in a moment. But yeah, Byakuya is still alive. He also brings up that Kenpachi as well. He says Kenpachi and Byakuya may not be able to return to their captain duties because of their injuries. That is clearly not the case with Kenpachi because, like, the next couple of chapters, actually in the next episode, we're going to have Kenpachi's fight with Unohana, and he's very clearly, like, completely healed. Probably because Unohana directly healed him, but still, Kenpachi is not nearly as in bad of shape as Byakuya is. Byakuya pretty much had his stomach, like, gouged out. I mean, it was pretty bad. Kenpachi got manhandled by Yuha pretty badly, but, you know, not nearly as bad as Byakuya. So anyway, at this point, Soifone gets really upset with all of this. She just kind of wants to yell and let her anger out. She's not handling it very well. She's just like, you know, I don't want to hear these reports right now. You know, Byakuya and Kenpachi are alive. I don't need to hear that shit. Get out of here. You know, just like, she's just upset. She hasn't slept in a while. You know, she needs some coffee. But anyway, all the other captains are kind of like Ukitake. Look how somber Ukitake is here. And Ukitake is usually the guy that's very upbeat and very like, oh, hello there, everybody. How are you doing? Here's some candy. You know, he's that kind of captain, and he looks pretty banged up right now, and also at the loss of his mentor as well, because Shunsui and Ukitake were next to Unohana and Yamamoto. They were the oldest captains. They're the ones that were taught directly by Yamamoto, so they're very much upset that his passed. Then we also have Kensei here. This is something, I mean, Soifone's a little bit going out of hand here. In this episode, Soifone kind of, I mean, it's understandable because she's very upset about everything that happened, and she doesn't really know how to convey her emotions. But she just really comes off as just yelling at everybody in this episode. She even, you know, mouths off to the Zero Squad later. Oh, it's so good for you. You're not upset because you didn't even care about the head captain. You guys had a grudge against him because you got banished from the Soul Society for 100 years or whatever. And Kensei looks at, you know, Soifone and just like, what did you just say to me? Because he's basically like saying, like, Kensei doesn't care about the Soul Society. He doesn't care about the head captain. He doesn't care about any of this because they were exiled for so long. Kensei was getting ready to, like, say something to Soifone here. Sajin steps up, and he's like, hey, do you think you're the only one that wants to scream? And at that point, that's when Shunsui finally decides to play dad, and he's just like, okay, all right. Everybody calm down. Everybody likes to yell and scream and yell. You know, that's understandable. You know, we just took a major loss here, guys. But, hey, if Old Man Yama was still alive, I'll tell you exactly what he would be doing right now. He would line each of you up and smack all of you. You know, Soifone, Komamura, Kensei, all of you, you know, because that's not what we do as the Gotei 13. We are the court guard squads. You know what the court guard squads do? Protect the court. We don't exist to grieve the dead. We don't exist to be upset over the destruction of the Seirete. We exist to protect the Soul Society. That is literally what our job description is as the Gotei 13. Also, we have Shunsui rocking his new eye patch look after Robert Akutron, you know, blasted off his right eye. So it's pretty bad. He also lost part of his ear, and you can see the scar running down the right side of his face there. So yeah, it's pretty bad. But even with all that battle damage and all the dangerous stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty bad battle damage, but even despite that, so yeah, it's pretty bad battle damage, but you know, even despite all that, Shunsui can still hold the squads together at this time. Although so yeah, he does have pretty bad battle damage himself. I mean, he lost an eye. I mean, Yamamoto's dead, but like none of the other Shinigami really have as much battle damage as Shunsui does. Like none of them lost an arm or a leg. Komamura lost an ear. You can actually see that back here, I think. Yeah. Komamura lost one of his ears, but Rose looks fine. Kensei looks fine. Shinji looks fine. Soifone looks fine. You know, Toshiro didn't lose any. I mean, like, really, Shunsui's the one that kind of got the most damage there. He lost one of his eyes, and he's the one that's being reasonable here. He's the one that's being the most calm about all this, you know? And it also sets up foreshadowing for him to become the next Captain Commander after Yamamoto. I'm assuming Ukitake was also considered for that, but just because of his weak constitution, they decided not to go with Ukitake, and they went with Shunsui instead. I also think that Byakuya might have been considered if he wasn't on death's door right now, if he wasn't in critical condition. They need somebody that can lead the Gotei right now. That's Central 46 deciding on the next head captain. And, yeah, so Shunsui's obviously the best pick here. I can't really think of anybody else that would be better. Toshiro is, he's too inexperienced. I think Sajin would be an okay Captain Commander. I think he would mostly just try to mimic Yamamoto, though, which might not be the best kind of situation. And he's also really emotional right now and torn up over the death of Yamamoto. Um, Mayuri, no. Yeah, let's be honest here. When Central 46 was gathering together to decide the next, head captain, probably the first person they tossed out was Mayuri, followed by Kenpachi. It's like, all right, who's going to be the next head captain? All right, how about, okay, let's remove the easy ones. Mayuri Kuratsuchi, nope. And Kenpachi Zaraki, nope. And then they worked their way down the list from there. I wonder what order they got eliminated in, actually. So Mayuri and Kenpachi would have been first. I think they would have considered Toshiro for a little bit. He would have made a few cuts, but then he would have been removed at some point because he's just too inexperienced. Ukitake probably made it to the final round, but he was just, he's really sick. So they're like, if we have him as the head captain, he might not be able to be around for very much longer. He might not be able to carry out his duties. That makes sense. Soifone already has her responsibilities as the leader of the Stealth Corps, so that's the reason why they probably didn't pick her. So she was probably out of the running fairly early on as well. Rose and Kensei and Shinji, they're strong, but they were also exiled for the last 100 years, so they were also probably, the ones that were removed. Let's see here. Let me try to think about this. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know. This is a weird thing to speak of right now, but I just wanted to talk about it. So okay, Mayuri was the first removed, then Kenpachi, then let's say Kensei, Rose, and Shinji all got removed at the same time. Then let's say Toshiro was the sixth. Byakuya probably would have been considered, but he's also really injured right now, so that's seventh. So who would have been next after that? Let's see here. Let's say they get rid of Soifone after that because of her duties. Unohana also because of her duties as the head of the 4th Division, also from what's going to happen next. So that's 9 captains removed. So all we have left is Komamura, Shunsui, Ukitake, and I think I'm forgetting somebody. Komamura. Did I say Komamura already? I don't know. Anyway, they removed them as well. It was probably down between Ukitake and Shunsui, and they just went with Shunsui. Anyway, moving on. So next scene, we now cut over to the 12th Division, and this is something that they changed from the manga. I'm actually really upset that they kind of changed this around. They shortened this a lot. So we see the scene here with Mayuri studying Tensa Zangetsu, and if it can be repaired. In the manga, it wasn't actually in this like futuristic tube. It was just sitting on a pair of it was sitting on like a pillow in the middle of the lab, and Ichigo went to go pick it back up. Now it's in this like tank, which is the same tank that Chodoro Sasakibe's Gonri Maru was in earlier that we saw in, I think episode 3 of BAN-KAST, episode 3, I think it was episode 4 of BAN-KAST, we saw Gonri Maru. So you see Tensa Zangetsu in the tube, and it's broken, and he brings up to Ichigo that he actually cannot fix his Bankai, and Ichigo's like, well, wait, you fix your Zanpakuto all the time, it gets broken all the time. And Mayuri's like, you fool, I don't fix mine, I modify it. So this is indicating that, for example, when he finished off Silaporo Grants, he broke the blade of his Zanpakuto. He brings up that as long as the guard is intact, it'll heal, and that's only in the Shikai when you do that. Now, he brings up when a Shikai and a Bankai are broken, it means different things. A destroyed Bankai can never be restored. And at this point, we pretty much just immediately cut now to the next scene where they hear about the Zero Squad. Okay, you see Kon running around here. There's a few more scenes with Kon in the manga, too, where he transforms into his buff form, but they decided to cut those out, I guess, just because of comedy. The reason Kon still has to be here, though, is he's going to be a little bit relevant later on when Ichigo goes to the Soul Palace, and he's traveling between, he needs to be there for some reasons, especially when they go to Kirio's palace. It's relevant for him to be there. So they have to include him, but they cut out a lot of scenes. So the last time we saw Kon, I think it was in one of those Shinigami Golden episode teasers back in the first generation of the Bleach anime, where he was found and subdued by the 12th Division and brought back and being studied there for so that's where Kon's been ever since the fake Karakura Town arc. Ichigo hasn't seen him a while. You also get the impression Ichigo doesn't really care. He's just oh, that's what happened with Kon. I haven't seen him in 2 years, so I was just I wonder what happened to him. He never even bothered to check. He never even went to Uehara the last 2 years or 17 months, or was just hey, Uehara, whatever happened to Kon? He never even wanted to check. He's just yeah, Kon just disappeared one day. Whatever. He's on his own. He'll be fine. Anyway, the scene that they cut out was after Mayuri says that a Bankai can never be restored, they go on to clarify a few examples of this, because there are a few instances where Bankai seems to be seem to be, destroyed but then repaired. So the first they bring up is, I think, Komamura's Bankai, Kokujo Tengen Myo, where Mayuri mentions that Kokujo Tengen Myo is the only Bankai that is an exception to this rule. The only one. Okay? Because Komamura's Bankai gets wrecked a lot during Fate Karakura. Aizen basically cuts it in half, yet it returns in full form. This is because the nature of Komamura's Bankai is very closely connected to his own body, where if his Bankai, Kokujo Tengen Myo, gets damaged, so does Komamura. So if Kokujo Tengen Myo gets slashed across the chest, Komamura gets that exact same injury. However, that is a weakness. However, on the flip side of that coin, when Komamura is healed by, the 4th Division or by Orihime or anybody, that will also repair his Bankai as well. So it's sort of like a very good, a very risky kind of double-edged sword in the situation for Komamura. However, that is the only exception of a Bankai being able to be restored to its original form. They also bring up Ikkaku, and I'm really upset they didn't mention Ikkaku's Bankai. So if you go back and watch the fight between Ikkaku and Eterad Leones, one of the Fraction of Grimmjow, Ikkaku goes into his Bankai for the first and only time in the entire manga, and it gets wrecked really badly. So Ikkaku's Bankai takes the form of those 3 large weapons. He has like these 2 giant axes in his hands, and then that huge axe that like floats behind him. At the end of that fight with Eterad, one of those axes is completely destroyed. It's completely obliterated. All he has is the handle, and then another one is cracked very well. It's a very fragile Bankai. And so Mayuri mentions that Akon was able to superficially repair it, but it is not nearly as strong as it used to be. So what I think Akon did to Ryumon Hozoki Maru, Ikkaku's Bankai, was he basically pieced it back together, super glued it back together, basically. It's like, imagine you have a vase, and the vase shatters into 100 pieces. And you painstakingly take some super glue and you paste it all back together. Yeah, you might get it back to where its original form is, but it is not nearly as sturdy as it used to be, because it's literally been broken into 100 pieces and you're just pasting it back together. So maybe Akon used some other materials. He took some metal and he tried to superficially, he took the broken handle of Ryomon's Hozoki Maru, made another version of it, like a mold of the axe blade, and then added it to the handle. But it's not nearly as strong as it used to be. So that's the case there. And then lastly they bring up Renji's Bankai, Hihio Zabimaru, where when Byakuya fought against Renji way back in the Soul Society, remember parts of the segments of Hihio Zabimaru got broken, and Mayuri brings that up. He's like, have you ever actually counted the segments on Hihio Zabimaru? Those joints are still broken. So it's just not as noticeable with Hihio, because it extends, Hihio has a bunch of let's say 20 or 30 different joints, but after the fight with Byakuya he might only have 16 joints, but you can't really tell unless you actually sit down and count the joints, So that's Kubo basically saying that no, I'm not retconning this. This was something that I always kind of planned on. Bankais can never be restored, and that's the case with Tensu Zangetsu right here. Tensu Zangetsu's in this tank. It's cut in half. If Mayuri wanted to, he could probably, the same thing with Akon with Ryoma Hozoki Maru. They could take some freaking, Gorilla Glue or something and just paste it back together. There's nothing physically stopping them from doing that. But imagine fighting with a katana that literally has this massive crack in the middle that you just pasted back together and taped up, with, flex tape or whatever. It's not going to really hold up, you know what I mean? So Ichigo needs his Zanpakuto to be repaired, the same as it was or even stronger. That's what he needs in order to fight Yuha. He's not going to be able to fight Yuha with a half-strong Tensa, you know what I mean? At this point, we see Kon running around, and Mayuri receives a call that Squad Zero is arriving. So it is time for Squad Zero. I hope you appreciate this, because, I remember back reading Bleach Weekly, Squad Zero was first mentioned during Turn Back the Pendulum, which I think was volume 36 of Bleach, and this is volume 58. So this is a good 22 volumes since Squad Zero was first mentioned. There were so many theories of Squad Zero back in the day. It was crazy. But anyway, we immediately cut over outside the Seirete, so it's like an immediate cut. And it's the same thing that happens in the manga, but it's just, it's just pacing, man. I'm not used to pacing. See, if this was the original Bleach anime, right here between these two segments, there'd be a shot of Ichigo running through the Seirete with all the captains meeting up with him before they got to this scene. That's probably what would have happened, definitely. Anyway. So Ichigo shows up, and he begins to ask the question of, like, wait a second, why is the Zero Squad showing up now? So Ichigo shows up, and he starts asking the major questions of, like, wait a second, why is the Squad Zero only showing up now after the Seirete got destroyed? Shouldn't they have, like, helped us? This is when Shunsui kind of explains a little bit about them. He says that they live in the Royal Palace with the Soul King. Ichigo's like, well, isn't that, in the Seirete? And, he's like, no, it isn't. Actually, remember that first time you came to the Seirete, Ichigo? Like, the first time, like, episode 21 or whatever, when they arrived in the Rukon district and they had to fight Jidambo? When they showed up, that giant wall, that Seki wall that surrounds the Seirete, that wasn't always there. That came down when Ichigo arrived, and we actually find out later that was actually the machinations of Aizen. Aizen actually, I think, acting as Central 46 or manipulating things at that point, was able to summon the wall as soon as Ichigo showed up. And the wall has stayed there because things have been so chaotic recently with Aizen and now the Quincy's and everything. But the wall is usually not surrounding the Seirete. There's usually not a reason for it. But in this case, the wall is there, and it normally is protecting the Soul Palace, which is above. If you go back and look at chapter 517, I believe. Yes, 517. If you look at the cover page for 517, and I'll just show it here, you can actually see a diagram of, right here, you see the Soul Society, like the Seirete, like Senzai-Q Tower right here, and then above it, in the sky, to give you an idea of how far above it is and how large it is the Soul Palace. So that gives you like a general vibe on how this works. And I also love chapter 517 because it's named Stairway to Heaven. So we got a little bit of Zeppelin in our Bleach, which is amazing. It's always very welcomed. Anyway, so this giant pillar just shoots down from the sky at like Mach 5 and it just slams into the ground. And everyone's like, oh my god, what's that thing? And it's the Tenshuren. And the Tenshuren is the Squad Zero's transportation vehicle. They literally travel with like a pillar from like Roman, ancient Rome, I guess, from like the Roman Empire, just falls down. And that's literally how they travel. And then the pillar opens up, revealing the 5 members of Squad Zero. They don't have any foot soldiers. They don't have any seated officers. All 5 members are captains, and their combined strength is greater than the power of the Gote 13. Not equal, greater. So then we see the 5 members departing from the Tenshuren here. We get the, in inner space title card here, the Daten, here's the Squad Zero, and then, bam, we have the Squad Zero flag. Their symbol is the Winter Daphne, which is a really cool symbol there. They don't have, like, the, how most of the captain symbols have, like, 1, 2, 3, like the kanji for 1, 2, and 3 on their, inside of that diamond. So they don't actually have the kanji for 0. They just have their flower inside of the diamond, because that diamond is, like, just the symbol of the Gote 13. Anyway, so they show up, and here are the members of Squad Zero. We have the Western General, Oetsu Nimaya. He's probably my favorite, honestly. I mean, he is pretty damn cool. We're going to find out more stuff about Nimaya later. He is the creator of the Zanpakuto. Then we have the General of the East, Tenjiro Karinji. And he is the god of the hot springs or of healing springs. Also, fun fact, he and Ichibe Hyosubi are the only ones that we actually see their Shikai in the story, so hopefully we get to see all of them in the anime. I'm actually really excited for Squad Zero and the stuff that we could maybe see. Then we have Senjumaru Shutara, who's the General of the North. Last time I erroneously called her Shutenmaru, I think. So sorry about that. I think I was thinking of or Sentomaru. I said Shutenmaru or Sentomaru. If I said Sentomaru, I'm thinking of One Piece. But anyway, yeah. So she is the god of weaving. All right, and actually, so all of the members of Squad Zero, the reason they become members of Squad Zero is because they contribute to Soul Society's history in some way. They create something that is so integral to the Soul Society's existence that they are given status as the Royal Guard protecting the Soul King, and their bodies are physically changed. Their bones and their Ryatsu are literally changed when they go to live in the Soul Palace, okay? And so out of all of them, we know Nimaya created the Zanpakuto, Tenjiro created like all these different kinds of like healing techniques. Kiryu Hikefune, who we're going to see here, Kiryu is the latest member of Squad Zero. She was added to Squad Zero during Turn Back the Pendulum, or right before Turn Back the Pendulum. She was good friends with Shinji and Hiyori. And so she created the artificial soul technology. The Gigai technology pretty much stems from her. And then we have Ichibe Hyosubi, who is the eyeball monk, and he created names. So he's the first member, okay? And probably one of the first Shinigami to ever really exist. So the only thing is we don't know what Senjumaru created. We assume it's something to do with the outfits the Shinigami wear, and it's something we're going to see later in her palace. But yeah, that she's the only one we don't know definitively what she created. She's actually the one that's focused on kind of, well, she shows up later and fights against Nyanzel, but she has not really explained really beyond that. So hopefully, though, in the anime, we're going to learn a lot more about Senjumaru and all of the Zero Squad members, and more about their individual Zanpakutos and their Shikai, maybe their Bankast too. I guess we'll just have to wait and see to find out. So this is how they choose to make their grand entrance. I love how Nimaya is basically just dancing there. He's kind of like break dancing. And then you have Senjumaru with her arms. She has a bunch of these puppet arms that she controls. And then she also has like instruments, and she's playing like a shamisen and a trumpet, and she's like has a flute, and she's like announcing the arrival of the Zero Squad. Korinji's there waving their flag. He's like, yeah, we're the Zero Squad. Hey, everybody. How you doing, Gotei 13? Squad Zero's in the house. Have you been getting enough sleep? Have you been eating right? We don't get to catch up as much as we should. Also, there's something, just because last episode we saw the original Gotei 13, it made me think of something. None of the original Gotei 13 that we saw are now members of Squad Zero. And at first I was like, that doesn't make any sense. And then I started thinking, or that's a little, maybe that doesn't make sense, but it's just a little strange, you know? Because, you know, you think the original Gotei 13, somebody in that original group would have become a member of Zero Squad. But then when you start to think about it, and the reason of why, like the criteria to become a member of the Zero Squad is you have to create. You have to make something. You have to change Soul Society history. It's the reason Yamamoto was never asked to join the Zero Squad. I mean, obviously he was important as the head captain, but I don't think he was even offered, because Yamamoto was really, really powerful, but strength alone does not get you a position of Squad Zero. You could be the strongest Shinigami ever. You're not going to get into Squad Zero just on strength alone, okay? That's the reason none of the Kenpachis are in Squad Zero, you know? And there's been some really strong Kenpachis over the years. The original Gotei 13 were just a bunch of killers. They were mercenaries, basically, you know what I mean? So they did not create. They didn't do anything. They just created a high body count. That's all they did, right? So it would make sense why they would not get into the Zero Squad, right? They're probably mostly retired or dead at this point, or maybe they died in battle, considering how, you know, warfaring they all were. But yeah, just something I thought of and I wanted to bring up here. So this is Kiryu Hikefune right here. She kind of slaps Shinji upside the head, and Shinji's like, why'd you do that for? And Kiryu's like, oh, did you forget me already? It's me. Hi, Shinji. And wait, he's like, she asks how Hiyori's doing. And then he's like, wait, Hiyori? He's like, wait a second, it's you, Kiryu. And so Kiryu's appearance, from what we can understand, is vastly different from the last time that Shinji has seen her. And this is true. So she is the goddess of grain, or the general of grains in the Soul Palace, and her whole thing is food. And in the Soul Palace, there's a thing called Super Reiatsu, right? It's not regular Reiatsu, it's Super Reiatsu. And the way that you infuse this Super Reiatsu into your body is by eating the food of the Soul Palace. So she's the one in charge of that, on top of creating the artificial soul technology, which she actually infuses into her food. And a byproduct of that is she really plumps up in order to have like a reserve of Reiatsu. When she cooks, she burns off all of those calories, and she has, like, in typical anime fashion, she has a slimmed down form that's like really wicked hot with like huge boobs. So, you know, just wait for that. We'll be getting to that maybe in the next episode or the episode after that. We'll see. But anyway, yeah, that's like Kiryu's like true form. Then we have Korinji, who is the god of healing, or the general of healing. So he shows up to Unohana and mentions that he was the one that actually taught Unohana her healing techniques. She didn't start out like being able to heal others with Kaido. Kaido, by the way, is healing Kido. She actually learned it from Korinji. And there's a moment here, right here, where Shunsui calls him Osho. They're not actually using Ichibei's real name. This is very important because Ichibei Hyosubi is the creator of names. I actually love this guy's ability. It's way more metaphysical than like every other ability in Bleach. Like a lot of times we have abilities in Bleach that are pretty simple, like Chodoro controls lightning, Hyorimaru controls weather. You know, Toshiro has the weather, Zanpakuto, ice and snow and cold. Yamamoto was fire. We do get some kind of esoteric devil fruits. Now, we do get some esoteric, Zanpakuto's kind of hard to wrap your brain around sort of Zanpakuto abilities every once in a while, but Osho's or Ichibei Hyosubi's kind of takes the cake. His ability is naming things, which means there's a power in words. Even if you, let me put it this way. If you were to say this guy's name and he doesn't want you to say his name, you will literally lose the ability to talk. It's like that kind of stuff. It's like the power in a name. And we're going to get way more about his ability further down into the arc. I mean, we're several episodes, we're like 100 chapters away from his fight with Yuha. But when we finally get there, you'll see what I mean. It's a really fascinating power. And Kubo has explained a little bit more about it. Like, here's the thing for you. Remember back when Ichigo was training with Uehara to get into the Soul Society? Like, he was training to get his Shinigami powers back after his fight with Byakuya? When he goes into his inner world and he sees Zangetsu there, Zangetsu kind of announces his name, and he's like, my name is... In the English dub, he says Zangetsu, but in the manga, it's like blotted out. It's like censored. It's like Kubo adds like a censor bar over the word whenever Zangetsu is about to say, my name is Jujutsu, you know? So Kubo actually came on in an interview and confirmed, I think it was on Club Outside, that it was because of Ichibei's ability that Ichigo could not hear the name of Zangetsu yet. So he really has the name of Zanpakuto, Shikai, Bankai. He names all of those things. They're very important to the ability. So anyway, that's why Shunsui's calling him Osho here, which I think just means monk. How you doing, monk? And then also Ichigo calls him Baldy later, which is interesting as well. But anyway, so Osho, or Ichibei, looks over at Ichigo, and he's like, oh, you're Ichigo Kurosaki, huh? Well, we've gotten orders to rebuild the 13 court guard squads, and the first step of that is bringing you back to the Soul Palace. And of course, at that, Soifone immediately starts, yelling, basically, like mouthing off to the Squad Zero, saying like, oh, this is bullcrap right here. Ichigo gets to go to the Soul, say, you know what, you guys are showing up here, you're playing instruments, you're acting like, oh, hey, everybody, I'm Squad Zero. You'll understand, like, literally, like 90% of the Gote 13 were annihilated and killed, right? You understand the head captain is dead. You understand that, like, all these horrible things happening. You didn't lift a finger to help us. Like, what are you jokers doing? Just hanging out up at the Soul Palace with your thumbs up your butt all day? Like, what are you guys doing? Seriously, right? So she's yelling at them, and they're all, dude, it's like a little kid yelling to, like, their parents, and the parents are just, like, not saying anything, just quietly, just like, all right, let them just finish their tantrum, and then, we'll move on, right? So she finishes her little tirade, and then immediately after that, Osho is, like, trying to change the subject, like, okay, so back to what we were talking about. And then, Soifone speaks up again. She's like, hey, don't you ignore me. And then, bam, that's when Korinji shows up. That's when he's like, I've had enough of you. You're loud, you're annoying, shut up, okay? You are the Gote 13. You are in charge of the Seirete. We are the Zero Squad. We are the Royal Guard. You know what the Royal Guard does? I'll give you 3 guesses. Wait a second. Oh, I'll give you 1. We protect royalty. We protect the Soul King. That is our one job. That is what we do. All right? You failed. You screwed up. You don't get to come cry to us because you guys messed up, all right? Different departments, different jurisdictions. Your job is to protect the Seirete, and you guys have been doing this for 1,000 years. The Gote 13 has done a pretty good job of protecting the Soul Society for 1,000 years without getting involved. We didn't get involved on that Aizen crap. You guys handled that on your own. Rather, Ichigo helped, but whatever. You guys handled that on your own. We don't get involved. Unless there is a direct threat to the Soul King or the Soul Palace itself, we do not get involved. This crap is on you. All right, many of you might think that that's like callous, like, well, they could have easily showed up and protected, but if they would have done that, they would have left the Soul King, they would have left him defenseless, and that, they cannot abide by that, right? They just can't. Different departments, different duties, and it's just the fact that Soifone would even be yelling to them about this to begin with, they kind of view it as nothing more of just like a child throwing a tantrum, like I just said. You know what I mean? It's like, you couldn't handle it, so you're going to cry to us. No, you messed up. You failed. It's on you, you know? So grow up, basically, is what Korinji is telling to Soifone. Also, Korinji was able to outspeed Soifone reflexively. And Soifone even looks, and she's just like, what is that ability that he just used? Because that, like, Soifone is the greatest Shunpo, or, like, next to Yoruichi, one of the greatest Shunpo users in all of the Seirete, so how the hell did he outspeed her? I think it just has something to do with their bodies being completely different. They have the Oken in their bones. They also have the Super Reiatsu. So he didn't just use regular Shunpo. He used Super Shunpo. Okay, all of the techniques are kind of just leveled up because of the changes in their body of living in the Soul Palace. So, obviously stronger than all of the Gotei 13 is seemingly warranted now that we see how fast Korinji is compared to Soifone, who's like one of the fastest characters in the whole Soul Society. Absolutely. So, he goes on about that. You know, it's like, you're not worthy to bear this title. Ichibei interrupts and kind of knocks him down, not because he agrees with Soifone, just because they have stuff to do and they're on a schedule. They got to get moving. So at this point, Senjumaru speaks up, and she announces that she actually has all the stuff on their to-do list. So they have Byakuya and Renji's bodies, they have Rukia as well, and Tensa Zangetsu you see in the orb up there. So she kind of used her puppet arms and grab all of them, bubble all of these characters, as well as the Tensa Zangetsu in the 12th Division, and bring it back. So that's like, okay, we have everything, we're ready to go. All's left is Ichigo Kurosaki to come with us. I also love the effect of Senjumaru's arms. They add like sort of like a puppet sort of like effect to them. Kind of reminds me of like Kankuro's crow puppets and the ant puppets in Naruto, how the puppets would make that like kind of like sound. I can't even do it right, but they make that kind of sound here, and I really like the sound effects on that. So it's like, yeah, now we just need you, Ichigo Kurosaki, to come with us. Now Ichigo is a little bit hesitant here because he has a lot of other duties to handle. You know, Orihime, Chad, and Urahara are still in Hueco Mundo. Nell is still in Hueco Mundo. He, you know, agreed to help her out. And then there's also the Seirete, where there's a lot of wounded, you know. So should I be going to the, you know, the Soul Palace right now? Should I be meeting the Reo? Like, what's going on with this? Unohana speaks up very briefly, though, and says, I can't allow you to take, you know, Byakuya with you especially, because his wounds are so severe that if you move them, they could die. And to this, that's when Korinji speaks up and says, I think you should be fully aware, Retsu, that you will not be able to heal them fully with your powers. So this is something that's kind of lost. In the manga, he basically uses Retsu with, like, quotations, as if Retsu is not actually her real name, which it isn't. She changed it. Retsu means fierce or violent in Japanese, which is very befitting of Unohana, but that's not her real name. Her real name is Unohana Yachiru. She is the namesake of, or Yachiru was named after her. So yeah, she's the namesake of Yachiru Kusajishi, who is the 11th Division lieutenant under Kenpachi. And she is also, you know, the first Kenpachi, as we're going to find out. So Korinji brings up that, like, hey, you know, you mastered my healing techniques and you can do okay, I guess, but your job here is no longer medical care, Unohana. Your job is now fighting. And she is someone that has put fighting behind her. You know, she's over 1,000 years old. I mean, she was a member of the original Gotei. She was the first Kenpachi. She was like the first to dive into battle. We saw that in the last episode. She was the first member of the original Gotei to dive into battle and slice apart one of the Sternritter of old. You know, so out of all of those bloodthirsty members of the Gotei 13, she was probably the most bloodthirsty. Okay, she started Squad 11's streak of being all about strength and blood and violence and gore and mutilation. You know, my God. But over the course of 1,000 years, and as the Seirete got shaped to something more of like fostering development and raising the next generation of Shinigami to protect with this noble goal, rather than, you know, just bloodthirsty killing for the sake of killing, she decided to take up healing. She decided to retire, essentially, and start the 4th Division. But it's no longer, we're past that at this point. You know, we need the original Unohana Yachiru back. And we're going to get her. So we also have Tensa here, and Mayuri brings up that, like, oh, you know, you snuck into my lab to steal it. You're always so disrespectful, Senjumaru. And it seems right here, and this is something that I don't think is ever really further explained in the manga, that Senjumaru and Mayuri sort of have a former relationship with each other. Now, it's funny because Kiryu was mentioned to be the former captain of Squad 12 before Uehara took over. So it was Kiryu, and she developed the artificial soul technology, then Uehara, who expanded upon it, and then Uehara got exiled, and then it was Mayuri who became the captain after Uehara, who's still the captain right now. So I guess Senjumaru was the captain before Kirio. I guess the implication is that, because she says, oh, it's far less secure now than it was when I was there. So there's definitely some kind of like rivalry going on there between Senjumaru. I just realized, is the reason that Mayuri wears all those crazy head ornaments, maybe it was inspired by Senjumaru, because he has this head ornament. He also has one he wore, like the ancient Egyptian pharaoh kind of ornament. He likes to wear these big ornaments on his head, and the only other character we know that really has that is Senjumaru Shutara. So I'm interested in their relationship here, and if we're going to find out a little bit more. But yeah, she's apparently stealthy enough to just sneak into the 12th Division, bypass all of Mayuri's security, and just take Tensa Zangetsu. So that cannot be like underestimated there. They're all extremely powerful. I like the way that Kubo shows this without just showcasing their abilities or their Shikai, just showcasing like at their base level without them even trying. They're better than everything else that the captains can really do. Kurinji, without even trying, is faster than Soifone. Mayuri, despite all of his technological inventions and everything like that, Senjumaru is able to just bypass all of that instantly without even him noticing. You know what I mean? So, like, that's the level of strength that they showcase. So, Osho brings up that the reason they're bringing Ichigo is not to be healed, as is the case with Renji, Rukia, and Byakuya. He's being brought because the Reo specifically like wanted to, well, he mentions the Reo wants to see you, but Ichigo never actually gets to meet the Reo on this trip, but later. Anyway, this is interrupted by Uehara, who shows up via video screen, holographic video screen technology that's actually being projected right out of Kone's head. So this is what I mean, like these little comedic moments, they had to leave this in because it's really integral. There's an added scene in the manga where Mayuri tries to turn off the transmission, is like stabbing Kone in the eyes, of like the eyes must be the on-off switch, but they've been disabled or whatever, so that's all cut out of the episode. Anyway, Uehara shows up to just basically say, hey, Orihime's okay, Chad's okay, we're all okay, Ichigo, do not worry about us. If you need to go somewhere and do something, you go and do it, because otherwise Ichigo might want to go back to Hueco Mundo, okay? And we got to keep this plot train moving, you know what I mean? So we have the scene here, though, where the mysterious individual with the sword, and it's very obvious in the anime because they have to use the voice actor, right? So it's Grimmjow. It's Grimmjow Jaggerjack, who is the original 6th Espada, showing up, and he's the one that saved, Uehara from Killhei. He's the one that killed him and everything like that, sliced him in half. So he shows up here, and we can even see part of his body there. So you can even see part of his scar and his hollow hole. He's very clearly Grimmjow. Ichigo is like, wait a second, why are you working with that guy? And Uehara has this thing where he doesn't want Grimmjow to see Ichigo yet, or he's going to try to fight him or whatever. And I'm thinking, like, at this point, like, you could probably just show them. I mean, what's Grimmjow going to do? Jump through the video screen at Ichigo? It's like Ichigo's like, why are you working with that guy? It's like, oh, come on, Ichigo. Grimmjow's not that bad. He wanted to fight you. He wasn't evil. He wasn't like freaking Aizen or anything. He just wanted a really good fight. That's all. So Grimmjow's back, pretty much. Yay. I'm like, Ichigo could have met him. But the funny thing is, Uehara's like, no. Orihime, Chad, hold him back. So they go to restrain the tent that they're hiding in, and they do this weird thing in the background where Orihime's like throwing rice at the flap of the tent, and Chad is like shaking maracas, like, and that's how they're keeping Grimmjow out of the tent, and everyone's like, what the... And by the way, I don't remember this in the manga, but I went back and checked. No, this scene actually is in the manga, surprisingly enough. I don't know if the maracas are, but the rice definitely is, or whatever that is that they're like tossing at the door. So, or maybe it's salt. So to answer your questions, I'm not 100% sure what these are, but I think they're inventions that Uehara created to keep Arrancars away. So, like, you know how Mayuri created that, like, anti-Arrancar mine that he gave to Uryu and he used on Yami? Kind of the same thing, where Uehara probably created, like, this is anti-Arrancar maracas. They create a noise that really irritates Arrancars. And then, like, this salt is anti-Arrancar salt, that if you sprinkle it around, it creates a barrier that they have a hard time getting through. So maybe that's what it is. And of course, it's Uehara, so he's going to make them maracas. I mean, why wouldn't he, right? So anyway, yeah, that's the situation there. Grimjow is on the scene. He says, "Hey, don't worry. I made an agreement with him. We reached a contract. Don't worry about us." And he basically just ends the call. He's like, "Ichigo, you do what you gotta do, pretty much." And of course, Urahara is planning like 30 steps ahead. He already knows Ichigo's going to go to the Soul Palace. He already knows he's going to get training up there. So he's basically like, "Hey, Ichigo, just do what you got to do." But he's painting it in a way of letting Ichigo decide, even though he really doesn't have much of a choice in the matter. Ichigo has to go to the Soul Palace no matter what. Anyway, Chad at the end tells him, like, "Was it okay to tell him that?" And Urahara is like, it's Ichigo we're talking about here. Whatever path he goes on will end up protecting us in the end. So all we have to do is focus on this, and, he knows that better than anybody. So at this point, Ichigo, he brings up, he's like, "Hey, Baldy," referring to Ichibei. He says, "Hey, if I go to the Soul Palace with you, will I be able to fix Tensa Zangetsu?" And he says, "No, you can't. It's beyond repair. However, you can reforge it into something resembling your original sword." Now, Ichigo doesn't really have a lot of options here because he needs his Zanpakuto to fight against Yuha and the Quincy's. So, if he can't fix it, if it's reforging, whatever it has to do, whatever you got to do in order to make it, fighting fit for me again, I got to go with you, sure. So we cut over some scenes here where we basically just cut over to Kakaku Shiba's house, and she's like, "Okay, time to blast off. Okay, yeah, here we go. Bye, everybody. Flower-carrying cannon. Boom, into the sky." Aren't there any seatbelts on this crazy thing? So there's extra scenes here with Kukaku in the manga where they actually arrive and they have a little bit of a banter back and forth. There is Ganju holding the banner. It used to be two giant arms holding the banner, but now it's Ganju statues holding the banner. It's been a long time since we've seen Kukaku, so it's kind of sad that we just kind of skip over all this. Also, the explanation on why they're even there. See, the cannon originally is intended to launch the Tenshuren back into the Soul Palace because it doesn't have the ability to return on its own. It uses Super Reiatsu to launch, but there's no Super Reiatsu in the regular Soul Society, so they need to use this specific cannon developed by the Shiba clan to launch it back up. So that's the reason for that. However, there is a brief scene where they do leave it in, where it's like we have no choice to let him go because the Soul Society will get destroyed if he doesn't train, and even if it makes Uncle sad. So here we are right here. This is, of course, Isshin Kurosaki, Ichigo's father, former captain of Squad 10. They're revealing this a little bit early on here, but I'm okay with it because of the pace we're moving here. We're going to get to we're going to get to this flashback here probably within the next 5 episodes. So I think it's pretty good foreshadowing. So yeah, Isshin Kurosaki's original name is actually Isshin Shiba, and he's the uncle of Ganju and Kukaku. Remember, Kukaku's older brother was also Kaien Shiba. So he's not like directly related to them in that way, but still is related to them. So, by the way, Kukaku is magnificent. Anyway, we also have the Fullbringers. The Fullbringers are back too. They were hanging out at Kukaku's place. They were rescued from the Rukongai, as she says. "I took you off the mean streets of the Rukon district, so now you're going to train here." So we have Ginjo Kugo. So we have Ginjo Kujo, and then Giriko Kutsuzawa, and then we have Tsukishima, Shukuro Tsukishima, all hanging out here. And then we also have Ganju. We already knew Ganju was going to be there, but here he is. Excuse me. And they're all training for this upcoming battle, the second war with the Quincy's. Ganju does stuff, but it's once again a character that kind of just gets pushed to the side. I hope there's more with him. And the Fullbringers, they only show up in like one chapter to do anything. At least these Fullbringers do. We get to see Yukio and Riruka later on. But when it comes to Ginjo, Giriko, I don't even think Giriko does anything. Ginjo really doesn't either. It's Tsukishima that does most of it at the end of this arc. But we'll get to that. Hopefully we'll see a few more scenes with them helping out before we get to that very last moment where he shows up. But if that's not the case, then just make a mental note that Tsukishima's here in the Soul Society, because it is going to be relevant. Even if it's just as like a last-minute kind of savior moment, but whatever. So finally, we get to see the Soul Palace in its grandeur. I love this. Obviously, in the manga, it was there was no sun behind it. It was just all white backgrounds, and then the entrance here. It's not as built up as you would imagine it, but it makes it work. You know what I mean? Like, it's still this sense of reverence. This isn't just the royal palace. This is literally where God lives. Okay, this is God of everything. the crux, the nexus, the keystone of all existence everywhere in every dimension. He lives here, okay? It kind of does give off that vibe with the sun itself, literally. It looks like center building right there, the greater palace, is just emanating this godly, holy, radiant light, okay? So it really does work to its advantage, absolutely. Underneath the Great Palace, you're going to see these 5 dishes, and each of those dishes is a city with a palace where one of the members of Squad Zero rule over. So literally when you become a member of Squad Zero, you literally get your own city and your own palace to like rule over. There are people that live in the Soul Palace that are like the servants of the Soul King and of Squad Zero. We'll see a few of them in the later episodes, but yeah, there's apparently a lot of them because there's a lot of buildings on each one. So you would imagine that, like, on top of Squad Zero, there's got to be, like, a few hundred servants at least, maybe a few thousand, but we don't really get to see that many of them during the manga. So maybe in the anime, they'll show us a little bit more about how they all live in this whole situation they have here. So I really like this scene right here where Osho basically says, hey, it's okay to brag. Nor ordinary Soul Reapers are not allowed in this place. So if you want to go back and tell everybody that you've been in the Soul Palace, I mean, that's a pretty big achievement, you know, just in and of itself. Ichigo is like, he's a little bit, you know, taken aback by it. He's just kind of like, wow, this is actually really impressive. He's literally like, wow, I get to go to God's house. You know, this is just like he's a 17-year-old kid from Japan. You know, he was in high school a couple weeks ago, you know, practicing on his entrance exams to go to college, and now he's literally in God's house. So he's like, huh, all right, this is actually kind of cool. And Ichigo realizes at this point, though, is like, hey, wait a second, this is the place that Aizen wanted to get to. This is the place like Aizen wanted to move like heaven and earth to get to this place to kill the Soul King. This is like the whole point of his plan. And then that's when Ichigo realizes, wait a second, don't you need the Oken? Didn't Aizen want to create an Oken, like kill all the people in Karakura Town to make a key to get into the Soul Palace? Like, wasn't that the whole point of that? And at this point, Osho explains that the Oken actually is their bone. Their literal bones are actually transformed into the Oken by the Reo when they become members of Squad Zero. Like, that's literally what happens there. And so it goes into detail. See, this was the Oken that, as it was originally shown in the manga, like it was an actual literal key, and really fancy key, I have to say. And Senjumaru shows up, and she begins to explain that Aizen was basically trying to create one of us. He was essentially trying to create a creature that could rival the powers of a Zero Squad member to gain access to the Soul Palace, where he could then take the place of a god. And she goes on to say that Aizen Sosuke is literally evil personified. However, the Quincy's that have showed up now are even more evil than that. Okay. So I got to pause this for a moment. Let's go back here for a moment. All right. So first of all, Aizen was trying to make an Oken. Kind of up for debate whether or not he was trying to make like another being that could be the Oken to open up the Soul Palace for him, or if Aizen was attempting to transform himself into an Oken because of the powers. Like that seemed to be what he was doing with the powers of the Hogyoku. He was like creating, like making himself more and more powerful. So what if he was trying to create like himself, turning himself into the Oken? Either way, they view it as extremely sacrilegious to, like, you know, the Reo and everything like that. However, this line right here, where Senjumaru says, you know, the Quincy's that show up this time are even more evil than Aizen, and he was already evil. You know, he was planning on taking the place of a god. When you actually read the Can't Fear Your Own World, the light novel, and you learn a little bit more about the history of the Soul King and exactly how he came into existence and how the Shinigami came into existence and the whole situation there, it's a little bit funny that she's saying that, like, oh, Aizen wanted to kill, you know, the Reo, therefore he's, like, one of the most evil people imaginable. Where, considering how the Reo was created to begin with, is it doesn't paint the Shinigami in very good light. Let's just say that. It does not paint them in a very good light. But that will be a discussion for another day. Anyway, we cut immediately to Ichigo now about to play Whack-A-Mole. Not Whack-A-Mole. what's the game? The strongman game at the fair where you take the big hammer and you're about to lay it down into the thing and it hits the bell. That's what Ichigo's about to play. So the transportation method is a little strange in the Soul Palace. palace. Basically, Korinji's going to slam down this like giant like pedestal with a hammer, and then that's going to send Ichigo flying off to one of the palaces. So they explain a little bit how this works. This is the main entrance of the palace, like the vestibule area. You can see Ichigo at the top there on top of that pedestal. And then that's the Greater Palace, which is where the Reo himself, where the Soul King actually resides. Now, beneath the Greater Palace, you have these 5 sub-palaces called the Squad Zero Riden. All right, and these are each palaces and cities that are ruled over by members of the Squad Zero. So you look how big these things are in the cities and all the like the towns and buildings and stuff like that. There's got to be at least several hundred servants and maybe thousands of servants working in the Soul Palace at any given time. Like, why else would they need this much space? Also, if you might notice, the one at the bottom is a little different. All the other ones seem to be just buildings with like a big building in the center, which is the palace for the Zero Squad member. The one on the bottom is a little different. It has like half of it is like made of water. And it took me a while to realize what that is. And when I realized it, I was so impressed. That is Nemaya's palace. That's the Zanpakuto Ho-Oden, or the Phoenix Palace, because in order to forge a Zanpakuto, you need a massive amount of water to like cool down the forging process. Later on, when Ichigo gets his new swords forged, he literally evaporates the entire ocean. So I love that they actually had the wherewithal to include, oh yeah, the Ho-Oden, half of it is ocean. Because it needs to be, because of the forging process, okay? So that was a really cool freaking addition that I do not think, I'll double check, but I don't think it is included in the original manga here. Let's see here. Oh, that's weird. Also, in the original version of the Soul Palace, it seems like there was cities and towns, like, underneath the, like, right here, you can see there's nothing below this. It's just clouds. In the manga, it actually shows buildings underneath this, which is strange. But okay, that's from chapter 519 if you're curious. Yeah, I don't think they actually show. No, they don't show the top part of it here. So this was something they added in the anime. Pretty good touch. Pretty good touch. Anyway, so the first palace they're going to be going to is the Kirin Den, which is, Kirin just means giraffe in Japanese. I think it can mean some other stuff, but I'm just going to say they're going to the Giraffe Palace. So they're going to the Giraffe Palace, which is Korinji's palace, which is Hot Springs. Okay, and so Ichigo just immediately match cut to, we're going to the Kirin Den. All right, here we are in the Kirin Den. Anyway, so, yeah, this is the place where the hot springs that were developed later on, you see them like Uehara utilizes them in his training area under the shop. Also, Yoruichi utilized them while Ichigo was training for his Bankai. This is the origin of all of that. So there's 2 different ponds here. There's a like kind of typical just white hot water, and then there's a pond of red hot water of hot springs. And essentially the healing method here is that the bad blood or bad Ryatsu gets squeezed out in the white pond, and then Korinji literally yeets Byakuya into the red pond where it is replenished. And they literally just go back and forth until his body is healed. Now, the way they explain this is not all that in great detail. It's pretty much just like, yeah, the blood gets drawn out in the white bone hell and gets replaced in the red pond, and then replaced, and then replaced, and then back and forth and back and forth. Now, somebody explained to me how, like, the fact that Byakuya had his entire stomach gouged out, how replacing blood in his body does that, how that heals. I have a theory, and here's my theory. This healing method literally replaces the substance, like the spiritual substance that makes up the Shinigami little by little. Like, you're literally, like, replacing part of your body every single time you go through these 2 baths. Okay, to the point where you are healed with all new material. So it's like the ship of Theseus, if anybody's familiar with that. Korinji is literally ship of Theseusing Byakuya back into good health. Where, if you don't know the ship of Theseus, it's that old philosophical, like, parable or whatever, where it's like, you have a ship that leaves the port. Over the course of its journey, it keeps getting damaged and replaced with new parts until eventually no original piece of lumber from the ship of Theseus was what it looked like or what it had at the original beginning of its journey. So all the pieces were slowly replaced one after another, and then it returned to the port is it still the ship of Theseus, even though it was replaced? Like the whole thing was replaced. It's like a little bit of a thought experiment. There's really no there's no right or wrong answer. It's just something to think about. So that's not what was confirmed. That's more headcanon for me. But it makes a lot of sense that that's what Korinji's healing method is doing. Okay, so anyway. He goes into a little bit more detail, and then he says to Ichigo that, like, hey, you're not that injured, so one night is probably enough to make you feel good as normal, actually make you feel twice as good as normal, for I am Korinji, the hot spring demon, Tenjiro Korinji. And then, boom, end of episode, although it isn't because we have an after-credit scene here where we have Osho showing up to the actual quarters of the Reo. Now, this was not Ichibei Hyosubi in the manga. This was just like a random like servant of the Reo. Here it is Ichibei, and you see the inside of the Greater Palace, and you see here, imprisoned in this crystal, the Reo. Ooh. He doesn't speak, he doesn't move, he doesn't do anything, he's just kinda here. But he is very, very, very important for reasons that we'll get into next time, because this episode is already long enough. But anyway, yeah, so let me go back a little bit here, though. There was another scene they cut out of this episode. And I could kind of see them because they wanted to keep this moment very tense, like to keep the drama up. But there was a scene in the original manga that many people might be upset that was not in this episode. So Rukia is also being healed in this hot spring. And there's a scene when Ichigo and Korinji are just kind of hanging out in the pond. And they're just like, wow, this is kind of weird. We're just sitting in a hot spring. And then Rukia's butt just kind of floats up from under the water. And then Korinji's like, hey, makes you think of peaches, doesn't it? Yep. And then he immediately like shoves Rukia back under the water. There's even a moment where Ichigo's like, you're gonna drown them. They're gonna die. They're mortally wounded. What are you doing? You know what I mean? So, yeah, that was cut from this episode, probably for the same reasons that, like, the extra stuff with Cone was cut, but, like, yeah. Anyway, so that was the episode, and now we're moving on to the next one, which is actually going to focus a lot on Kenpachi. The ending poem is for Kenpachi. Neither form nor soul shall escape my blade. Nothing except you. Ooh, ominous. And then we have Bleach, number 9, The Drop. And then that's the end of the episode. So I believe, I don't take my word for this 100% because I'm not sure, but I think there's a break next week in the episodes. I should probably go check on that right now, honestly. So let me just go pull that up really quick just to see Bleach episodes. Because I read something online that there's going to be a little bit of a break and they'll be back with 2 episodes after that, I think, is what it said. Episode 9 will air... No, episode 9 is listed to air on December 6th, so maybe I misread that, or maybe it's episode after December, maybe after December 6th, maybe episode 10, but episode 9 should be next week, according to Wikipedia, and when has Wikipedia ever been wrong, right? Anyway, that's the episode. A lot of stuff to cover in this one. This might be the longest episode of BAN-KAST so far. I've been here talking for a long time, but anyway, hope you all enjoyed it. This will be Techie 101 signing out. Let me know what you thought about it below, and we're going to find out more about the 5th, I keep saying, okay, for some reason, I've had to stop it so many times in this episode. I keep saying 5th division. I think it's because Squad 0 has 5 members, so I keep saying Squad 5. I've had to, like, cut it out so many times in this episode. Anyway, thanks for watching. Later, everyone. Signing out.